Hi, I'm Stacy, and welcome to Beyond the Mic. This is a space where we dive deep into the moments, stories, and breakthroughs that shape who we are and who we're becoming. Together, we'll explore personal growth, mental health, and the motivation you need to create lasting change. This is more than just a podcast. This is your moment to break free, rewrite your story, and step boldly into the life you've always dreamed of. It's time to stop holding back, to rise, to thrive, and to transform. Let's go beyond the mic.
Today we have a very special guest. He is a UTEP graduate in kinesiology. He's a Texas Tech graduate in medical school. And he has a doctoral in advanced medicine and peptide. Dr. Lira.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for being here. I know your schedule is hectic, so I know
Correct.
being here is that you put a little bit of, you made a space to be here, so I really appreciate it. But when I wanted to invite you, it was so hard for me to, when I reached out, I thought, what are we going to talk about? Because every time I talk with you, and I've said this many times when we talk, we always talk to about so many things, and then one little thing, takes to another, and then to another. So our conversations are very rich. So that's why I wanted to have the podcast. But after thinking, for you it was easy. I really want to talk about this one. But I have so many topics that I wanted to talk about. So today's episode, I named it The Silent Burnout. Well, before we start, I don't know if you want to share a little bit about you so people get to know you.
Yes, definitely. Yes. Well, first of all, thank you for the invitation. And one of the things more important is about health. How long, for the past 15 years, I've been a medical doctor for 15 years. Been doing some research, some practice. And at the same time, the majority of the medical fields, they focus too much on pharmaceutical, which is medication. And nowadays, we get to see a lot of harm with those type of medications. One of them is cirrhosis, non-alcoholic, which is booming. And besides that, obesity, and besides that, depression, and everything comes from the organs to the mental disorders. So thank you for the invitation.
No, thank you. So what made you care about liver health? And I'm going to add another question. And was there a moment that shifted how you saw it?
Well, everything started when I was doing my residency, my practice at the hospitals in Mexico. And I saw many cases where people were passing away. So one of them was kidney failures, and which is very common nowadays too. And it got to a point that I noticed that there was the protocol they use at the medicals, they don't work that well, because if they would work, we would be saving more lives. But at the same time, I noticed that more kidney failures or diabetes, and it got to a point that I started doing some research and see what was the main effect besides food and besides drinking, or even nowadays chemicals and bioengineering products, which is very contaminated. And so I started doing some research, and I noticed from a doctor in Chula Vista, California, who discovered this project, which is longevity. At first, and then I was not involved with that product, since I'm not very involved in certain products because nowadays on the market, there's too many products that they just want to sell. They don't want to, in other words, they're harming people. And so I decided to make some research on Dr. Wallen product, and I was very surprised how the results they were getting. And besides that, I started changing some protocols besides providing the product. Also, the meal plan, which is for many decades, they've been lying to us. The way we are supposed to eat was healthy. And many people nowadays, you get to see them do a lot of exercise activities. They don't see results. Many of them, they give up because they try hard to lose weight or to be physically active. And everything comes from the food.
Yeah. What are some of the things that they lie to us?
Good question. Well, first of all, one of them was the oil that we're supposed to cook with. Back then, when I was raised in the 80s, when there were many commercials that this corn oil that supposedly is pretty good for the heart, which is a major lie, because when you cook with oil, it doesn't matter what type of oil, it's going to turn to saturated fats. So when it turns to saturated fats, our liver is harming to detoxicate that saturated fats. Now, what are saturated fats? There are different type of compounds of fats. You accumulate, your liver try to filtrate it, but at the same time, we start developing a bilayer, which is fatty liver. Now, I'm not surprised that many doctors, they don't talk about fatty liver until they are diagnosed with hepatitis or cirrhosis. Why? Because the ranges for decades, they have changed ranges for blood work. That way, people will not be diagnosed with fatty liver. They're diagnosed with fatty liver once that the liver is harmed. So oil is one of us.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
But I think then it goes back into protocols that maybe insurances are involved in it, because I know there's different times where because the insurance's policies, they have to change the protocols so they don't pay. Or they pay more, end up paying more.
Yes.
But if those protocols will change and then change the numbers as to when your liver is not functioning as good as it's supposed to,
Correct.
then we would prevent all of these diagnoses of fatty liver, cirrhosis.
Yes, actually, one of the advantages I have for the past years and before I became a doctor, my dream is always to be travel to around the world. I like cultures, I like ideas, I like to try new meals, new foods. And when I started leaving out of town to other countries, I was very surprised how, first of all, there's many countries like, for example, Russia, which is everybody's healthy. The majority of the people are healthy. Why? Because one of the main protocols for people to eat are very strict. No bioengineering, no processed food, no frozen food. Why? Because they know very well that the government knows very well that they take care of their citizens. Their high cost of medical will not be very high compared to the United States. Now, here in the US, we have a major issue because everything is business. I've been in the medical field here in the US and for many years, and it was just prescribing. And I know a lot of people make a lot of profit out of it, even doctors, but there are only few doctors who they know very well that they're not into to see a number. They rather see a patient. When you see a patient, that's where you care for the patient.
Exactly.
So everything starts from nowadays with the meals. Now, when another country that I've been to different countries, another one was Argentina, which is Argentina. They still have pretty good products when it comes to natural products and natural food. Even the meat, grass-fed cows, grass-fed chicken, grass-fed pig. And here they have a lot of loopholes, which is they always provide a lot of corn, corn is one of the worst things that we consume here in the US. 98% of the corn is being proven that is synthetic, it's false, and it's a corn that came out, discovered back in the 70s. It was not for human consume until the late 70s. Why? Because they noticed how much harm they would do to the people.
And it's now that you mentioned it, I have never thought about it, but without trying to be gross or anything, but every time you consume corn and you digest it, it doesn't dissolve like once you evacuate.
Yes.
I don't know if you notice, like when you eat corn and then the corns come out like
the lens. Yeah, the lens.
I mean, I'm not trying to be gross, but I mean, that tells you that your body is not meant to process that type of that.
Yes. Well, yes, because we call it biles. When we actually digest, our digestive system starts when we start chewing. And then it goes to the esophagus, to the stomach, and then from the stomach, the liver. Now, the liver, we have to recognize that the liver is considered the second largest organ in the body. The first organ is our skin. Now, what happens? What happens is that the liver is responsible over 500 responsibilities for the human body. One of them, filtration, detoxification. Everything we eat, drink, and even smell goes to the liver. Now, nowadays, you see a lot of people, like for example, yesterday I had a patient came into me that he has chronic disease. Now, chronic fatigue. Now, chronic fatigue is considered disease. And a lot of people don't see it that way. They see it just like you have to sleep, you have to drink vitamins. Well, it doesn't work that way. Because when you're exhausted, your body is exhausted, it's because your body is trying to detoxicate the organs. Now, what happens? Your liver is actually, those are one of the major symptoms, like the liver. Like, I don't want to go to the medical terms, but trying to make it more simple is that our liver produces IGF-1, which is insulin growth factor 1 and 2. Now, when we have control from the IGF-1, which is our booster, which is our energy, but the liver, they say patient A has a fatty liver, you will be able to produce the IGF-1 properly. So what happens? Chronic fatigue. After chronic fatigue, insulin resistance, diabetes, and then second of all, edema, water retention, high blood pressure, swollen body. So all these factors are now focusing because you go to the doctor and the first thing they will do, they prescribe your medication. You're diagnosed with cholesterol, trigs, high levels, you're the prescription. Now, worst scenario is that when they prescribe medication for, let's say, cholesterol, what's the first thing? One of the major side effects? For liver functions. It will affect the liver. Now, metformin, let's talk about diabetes. Metformin, for many years, I've been work here in the US. I had several arguments with pharmaceuticals doctors who they say that the metformin didn't have any side effects. And I'm talking back in 12 years ago. And I even proved that metformin will have side effects, which is kidney failures. Nowadays, you get to see that. Now, so if you notice, all these medications are harming people, and family are suffering for not having the proper information or education from meals and even from fluids.
And then it takes away from the patient as well, because if you're not well informed by your medical doctor,
yes,
then if they were to tell you these are the side effects,
correct,
then you make a decision, okay, I'm going to do it, even knowing that these are the side effects. But if they tell you there's no side effects, you go in blindly. So I think it's shady in that sense.
Yes, it is. And I always tell everybody that I like to talk to my patients. I like to know them, and I like to hear from their health. And I always tell them, like my new patients, I always tell them, doctors are like mechanics, and not that many, only a few of them. So you go and take a car, supposedly your car has a sensor, and they will tell you that it's a whole transmission or the whole motor. So you have to pay more in order to fix that problem when it was just a simple sensor. And the same thing with doctors. Many doctors, they just know very well, and they make a profit by prescribing. I know a lot of people are going to be upset with me, but because they know very well that prescribe more, they make a good money out of it.
Yes, I agree with that. And if we backtrack a little bit, if we can make it into very simple terms so people can understand.
Yes.
What does the liver do, and why is it important?
Good question. Actually, when it comes to the liver, first of all, when we eat to provide nutrients to our body. So now our body needs nutrients, vitamins, and minerals. The main purpose of the liver is that the liver, just imagine, is separated by two sections: filtration, detoxification. So when we eat, the liver actually has different canals, which is vials, and those little canals are taking part of the meals in order for us to start absorbing nutrients and vitamins. Now, what happens when we consume saturated food or processed food? A good example is fried food. Your liver, besides taking the nutrients, is also taking the fat, which is the oil. Now, what happens? And when it takes the oil, it starts developing harm to the liver. Now, going back to your question, is that just imagine a filter that during the period of time, it gets dirty. Mm-hmm. And once it gets dirty, then you start noticing the problem, mm-hmm. which is your health. Now, one of the problems with the liver is that liver, like gallbladder, has symptoms. It's like signs: fatigue, imbalanced hormones, poor digested, bloating, poor sleeping, bad energy. So that's the main purpose of the liver, to detoxicate everything that we eat. Now, to provide detoxification, to provide the proper nutrients to our body. So what happens if your liver is harmed? It's not providing the nutrients. Now, you go back deeper, then your antibodies and your autoimmune system drops because it doesn't have enough nutrients. So what happens? That's when
So it's almost like the soldier is dirty and it's not letting the body absorb all the things that they need. Like it's just being stuck there.
Correct.
And it's making the liver sick.
Yes.
Okay.
And the whole body too.
Yeah, and the whole body as a result.
Yes. I normally, when we have different type of programs, depends on the patients. Now, one of the people that actually patients get surprised because they think that by having a fatty liver means that you have to be obese or have to be a big person. It doesn't work that way. Actually, you can be a skinny person and you can have worse fatty liver than obese people. Why? Because normally there's two type of fats in our body. We have the muscle fat, we have the visceral fat. Now, when we have fatty liver, we start developing more visceral fat, which is also the type of fat that accumulates to the arteries, the veins, the heart, and any type of the organ, which is the intestines. And that's what causes edema, which is water retention, and then it's going to cause health issues.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. And my next question was relating to that. And before I ask this question, I know you mentioned not to cook with oil. What do you recommend?
You'll be surprised. A lot of people get surprised. Lard. Lard is, if we go back to the old ways, it's like Robert Kennedy always said it. In order to prevent issues or mistakes, we have to learn from the past. Now, in the past, people used to consume a lot of lard. And lard is actually a good example is that if you have a pan, two pans, and you have oil, you have lard, and then you heat it up, and then you wait for both pans to cool down, you'll see the oil stick to the pan. The lard will actually turn white. So now, what's the difference is that when we consume lard, when we cook with lard and we consume lard, actually organs and the liver is going to recognize it and it's going to reject it.
Okay.
Now, talking about liver and nowadays with chemicals, many chemicals your body doesn't recognize them. So it's turning out to cancer.
Okay.
Yes.
So it's because it's absorbing it.
It's absorbing, yes.
Making itself visible for the body to recognize it, to filtrate it.
Correct. And to get rid of it. Yes. And those are studies that have been there for many years, but they don't pay attention to those studies because they know very well that the more sick people you have, the more medical programs.
So what would be the side for the people that say do not cook with lard? They would say that it causes what? Like
cholesterol and trigs and fatty liver, which is a major lie. Why? Because
I'm curious.
Why? It's because if we stop and think about the pyramid, which is, for me, the pyramid is totally fake. Now, everybody are afraid of eating with calories. They say too much calories is bad. Now, it's been many studies that one of the longest living towns in Italy, the majority of the people, over 100 years old, healthy people, still walking, no dementia, no obesity, no diabetes, they will eat a lot of meat. Now, for many decades, it has been proven that calories are more healthier than carbohydrates. And now, worst scenario, they start adding more protein, which it's been proven that too much protein can cause dehydration to the kidneys.
Okay.
So who created all these lies? Well, there's a story that after World War II, there was too much cows in the United States. So they hired this guy from Bulgaria, very smart guy, entrepreneur guy, who say, we're going to hire this guy. He's going to convince the whole nation that breakfast is very important. So what happens? First thing first, milk, which is they say that our bones are created by calcium. That's another lie because our bones are created by minerals, not calcium. Now, they say you have to drink, breakfast is important, so you have to eat heavy. And then besides that, you have to drink milk. Okay, perfect. So what happens? We're stressing our liver because it's too much food. And then nowadays, people are consuming 3 meals to 5 meals a day, which is too much for the body. So what happened is that our liver, our intestines are working too much, and then it's causing too much inflammation in our intestines. Now, we go a little bit deeper on medical. Every cells have two mitochondrias. So those mitochondrias are protecting the cells. When there's too much inflammation, mitochondria, they start dying. So that causes inflammation, cause sickness, and then besides that, too much inflammation can cause abnormal cells, which is cancer.
Oh, wow.
So
We have to take care of our portions. That's
yes.
for sure. And I think we also live in a very consumerism society where everything, you go to the store and there's everything.
Correct.
It's so crazy because in other countries, you say, I want a mango, and they will look at you like it's not season.
Yes.
But here, like, you can go to the store and you can get a mango.
Correct.
You know, like, you can get all these types of fruit, all these types of food because we have it right there. But in reality, you know, like, there's seasons for everything, and that's what you're supposed to eat this, and then there's so much that we start. I don't know if this is possible. Correct me if I'm wrong. But when you start eating more, it's almost like your stomach expands and you can eat more.
Yes.
But then the moment that you start eating less, it's almost like, I don't know if it shrinks.
Yes,
but
yes.
you start feeling fuller with smaller portions and knowing that you feel energized. Like you didn't need that much food.
Yes, correct.
It's more like having everything out of palm, like within reach. It makes people, consume more.
Oh, yes, definitely. Well, like nowadays you heard about fasting, which is supposedly it's very famous nowadays. I mean, fasting has been there for many decades. Now, there was a program which is they were doing a study worldwide to see which country were higher in high risk of cancer. Obviously, we're talking about one in the United States. So they find out that people from Arabia, they actually were diagnosed with this cancer. Why? Because they fast a lot. And then they has the month, that yearly or Ramadan, that's when they don't eat and only eat one time after the sun goes down. They're allowed to eat and allowed to drink water. So during that day, they don't eat or drink water, they pray. So what makes you think that by eating one time a day will be bad? Because up here in the United States, I mean, even in other countries, they force people to eat 3 or 5 times a day. And supposedly that's the proper way to be healthy, and that's a nature life, because there's other countries that only consume food 1 time a day and they're very healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the days, kings, for example, in queens, they noticed that they used to get very sick very often because they have access to eat and to eat all these foods that they were able to get. And slaves were not allowed to eat that much because they were only allowed to eat grains. And guess what happens? Who live longer? The slaves.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's something that has been there for many decades. And at the same time, like after many years, people that start seeing the market, they know very well that food as well as sweet drinks, though addicted, because now let's talk about addiction, is that when we consume sugars, our sugars concern that we satisfy dopamine.
Yes.
Okay,
You get a little something for sugar.
Yes, definitely. So now we're talking about dopamine, which is come from the brain. And guess what happened? Your liver had to detoxicate, filtrate sugar. So too much sugar turns to fat, and that stays on the liver as well and your organs.
And you already touched it a little bit about most people think that liver disease only happens to heavy drinkers or people who struggle with obesity. But I don't know if you want to add anything as to how dangerous is that misconception.
Well, actually, a lot of people get surprised when I answer this question. Have you ever noticed that, like, for example, heavy drinkers, like they say homeless people, you get to see them and they're still alive, and you're like, well, they drink. Oh, have you ever noticed that they drink a lot but they don't eat?
Yes, because then they can drink more.
Because they cannot drink.
I have uncles and I've had, family members where we go to parties and they'll be like, oh no, I don't want any food because then I'm not going to be able to drink the whole night. And then they eat right before they eat.
Yes.
Because now they already drank, but they
they want to. Yes, and that's one of the things I always tell everybody. Well, there's no study that has been showing who's bad. Either if you take medication, people who are taking medication are high risk of cirrhosis, which is liver failure, or heavy drinkers. And by guessing, I'm pretty sure it's going to be medication.
Isn't it interesting? Yeah. Just because they don't eat, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, because they don't eat. And besides that, because medication is more harmful, it actually damage more the liver than alcohol. If we compare it that way.
Oh, wow.
And
why do you think fatty liver disease isn't talked about more, especially given how common it is?
Because if you fix the solution, you don't have a customer.
Plain and simple.
Yes.
Everyone else. It's so true and it's so sad to think. But everything here in the United States it's business.
Yes.
And if there's no business, unless it affects people's pockets,
correct,
don't do something about it.
Oh, yes. Well, it's like everything. Like, if we stop and think and we analyze people, like when you go, it's like when I have new patients, they come to me, I'm 45 years old, they come to me and say, always, the first question they ask me is like, are you the doctor? Because they think I'm younger. And always tell them, you don't wanna be with a doctor who's obese or a doctor who's sick, because believe it or not, there's a lot of sick doctors out there. And besides that, is that you want to be with somebody that, if this is the way I think, if a medical doctor take care of himself or herself, then he or she is going to worry about his patients, because he knows or she knows that in order for us to be healthy, we have to be, it's like a role model. You want the best role model that you can see mentally, physically, and you want to be like that person, or you want to look like that person. So if you see a doctor who's obese and sick, and all of a sudden you're diagnosed with diabetes, he or she just want to prescribe medication. Now, if you see a healthy doctor who actually, active doctor who likes to help patients, the first thing he or she is going to do is he's going to give you a plan, detoxification program and a meal plan program. And it's like I always tell everybody, here in life, there's two people. The people that want the easy way and the people that wants to take the challenge and make a change. So many of the times, there's few people that wants the easy way, so that would be hard.
I think most people want the easy way, but the one that would make the difference long term, where you stick with it, is taking the challenge, because it costs you. It's almost like money when you're little.
Correct.
You're giving money to go buy toys, but it's not until you go and you grow up, you go to work, and then that money. I remember my first paycheck. And you don't want to let go because it costs you. So it's the same thing as, doing a diet, doing a proper detox. That once you're done, you're going to be like, well, I'm not going to go back to my old ways because I just went through all of this. Yes. And I'm just going to go back for nothing.
Yes.
So it's not until it really costs you that.
Oh, yes, definitely. In life, we have to make sacrifice. And I do have patients who they come to me and they saw somebody else who had a great result. They come to me and say, you know what, doctor, I don't know what you did to the other person. I see her, I see him, very healthy. I want the same. And I always tell me we had to sacrifice at least 8 to 10 days, detoxicating the body, and then from there you will see the results. And that's when I have many patients who in the beginning they want to give up, but once they start seeing the results, they get motivated. And besides that, it's like they mentally, physically, they're gonna be more active. I have many patients who save their marriage. I have many patients who actually are healthier than their sons and daughters and nephews and nieces because they love life.
Exactly.
And the way to love life is to be physically
to love yourself, to do something for you to have a longer life.
Yes.
We hear eat less, move more, but is it really that simple? And I'm not loaded with what are the hidden stressors or habits that people overlook when it comes to liver?
Okay, like when it comes to liver health, is we have to be aware what's good and what's bad. And so that's the number one question: what's good and what's bad. For example, we know very well fried food is bad.
We Mexicans, so everything's fried. Taquito, everything.
Yes, correct. So it's like a bonus that we normally like. Yesterday, for example, I had a patient who told me, you know what, doctor, I like hamburgers. I'm like, that's fine. If you like hamburgers, that's fine. Nowadays, you have to know where to eat them. It's not like you can go anywhere because you know very well, and I'm pretty sure you heard it, that McDonald's has hamburgers that they never go bad. Just imagine all the chemicals that they were in the organs to detoxicate.
I've seen videos where they taking the burger and they leave it for like 1-2 months.
Yes.
And then they come back and it looks pristine, like perfect.
Correct. So imagine what our body's going through. Now, when it comes to burgers, you can eat burger. Just make sure which bread is the proper bread and which meat is the proper meat. Because it's like everything. It's like when you eat fried food. We know very well we can cook with lard and fry it with lard. And when it comes to tortillas, which is in our culture, we consume a lot of tortilla and a lot of corn. We have to be aware which genetic modified corn and which is the natural corn. Those are one of the examples that.
Where do you
Yes. And there's a good opportunities for people to be creative and say, hey, you know what, we can create a business with organic products.
I feel like I've seen a lot more businesses and more products that are trying to modify a little by little.
Yes.
So I've seen more options, but I still think there's not enough yet.
Yes.
Like the grass-fed, I've seen more grass-fed even at Walmart.
Yes.
Before you wouldn't even see that there. You would have to go to Sprouts, which is more organic, to get a grass-fed, beef. But now I think slowly, but people are starting to realize that they have to take care of themselves and what's best for them. So I think because consumers are moving that way and it's hitting people's pockets, they're gonna go that route. But maybe, just being hopeful.
Well, we live in a different type of generations in which it's more difficult to, like you mentioned right now, to find the proper food. Now, I'm pretty sure in the future, there's going to be somebody who creates the fastest way to provide organic food. For example, they say organic corn or organic tortillas and by mail. Why? Because nowadays we have more access to send stuff, even food, from mail. So those are things our generation, we need to stop and think and see where can we get the proper food. Because nowadays, like we go to any restaurant, which is a fast change restaurants, and everything is already intoxicated. Like for a good example is that there are some restaurants, I don't want to call names, that they use chemicals in order to trigger dopamine, which is legal. And I'm not surprised. Now, it's legal, and I'm not surprised because when we drink, let's say when we eat, going back to
You're
sugar.
telling you for weeks.
Yes.
I'm recording.
So when we eat, for example, sugar, we trigger dopamine. Now, dopamine is our body pleasure. So what happens when they come out with a chemical, which is this place has over 30 chemicals in one sandwich or burger that actually focus on dopamine. And what happens? Your body gets addicted to it. So when your dopamine drops, you want more from that meal. Why? Because normally you want to increase your levels of dopamine. It's the same thing with alcohol, sugar, and other products that we normally consume. So why is it illegal? Because going back to the market.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not surprised because there's stores where they use a lot of psychology.
Yes.
Like music, like dim lights,
Yes.
and all these things, so people stay longer at the stores.
Correct.
I mean, so for restaurants to do that, I mean, I'm already not surprised. How is the liver controlling our weight, our mood, and if you're tired?
Correct. Yes. First of all, let's talk about mood, which is fatigue. Normally, when your body is health, when you health is when you're sick, your body reacts in a certain way, and that will comes to mood because you have an imbalanced hormones. Now, hormones we have to stop and think that hormones are functions of communication. So every organ provide hormones. Thyroid provide different type of hormones, and it will send signals to the brain. The brain responds back. Now, when you're fatigued, which is you have a health issue is bad, then if you notice the majority of people are moody, they're upset. Some of them they had depression because normally their bodies is yelling for help. Now, when you detoxicate the body, your body is doing a better function. What happens? Your mood turns to be better.
Mm.
So that's one of the things that normally cause the liver to actually cause imbalanced hormones. Now, I used to have a professor that he used to make fun of us because we would say where our emotion comes from, and we thought it comes from the neurons from the brain, and he said no, it comes from the liver. So I know everybody say I love you with all my heart, which is that's a myth. It's because our liver actually.
With all my liver.
Yes, and he used to say that all the time. I love you guys with all my liver because actually the liver has some of the functions of emotions. Same thing with the thyroid. So you see, everything comes from hormonal. Nowadays, unfortunately, you get to see more imbalanced hormones going back to the food.
So everything has
yes,
my bodies, all of that.
yes.
How does chronic stress or emotional overload actually show up in the liver?
Very simple. For example, and when your skin starts changing, it's been proven that first of all, our liver is responsible of our skin color.
Okay.
And that's one of the things a lot of patients that aware of is that liver provide enzymes. Now, the enzymes are responsible also for the skin color. And when your liver is hard, then you will start noticing the skin problem. When you have problems. Now, it's like when patients are...
There's no pigmentation in
Yes, correct. It's like when patients are diagnosed with cirrhosis, you get to see their skin very dry. Some people turn their skin black. Some you look yellow because those are imbalanced enzymes that your liver is in harm. Patients with bad enzymes, they start noticing their eyes turning yellow, skin yellow because the liver is harm.
It's hard.
Yes.
Oh wow, I didn't know that. I don't even know how to say it in English. Vitiligo. But I didn't know that it was related. So
Yes.
do you think that never mind. Yeah, you said that if the liver's not correctly, there's not enough enzymes, and that's creating the
imbalance enzymes.
But do you think it's something emotional as well? Like if you go through a lot of stress,
Oh yes,
then it causes that?
it can affect your skin as well.
Reverse it?
Yes, actually, we've been doing some studies with peptides. We've been working with peptides with certain patients, and they getting good results with that. but we still need to do more research on it. Because one of the things that is most important is are the side effects.
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, wow. What are the top 3 foods you would tell people to either remove or add right now if they want to protect their liver?
Remove. Let's talk about the negative. Let's talk about the negative food. First of all, corn.
Okay.
Second, oil. Stay away from oil. Stay away from corn. And then
No tortillas.
no, like from here, from the US,
No Cornelius.
from the US, and
Mexico, yes?
from South.
I'm stuck.
Yes, actually, right now, the previous president, and the present president, they are working to remove all these genetic modified, just GMO corn, who was introduced from the US to Mexico. So they're trying to get rid of it as much as they can because the corruption was that they started accepting funds. The previous government, they started accepting, not the previous, but before that they start accepting funds from Monsanto. And it's very important to know who's Monsanto, which is a major company in Missouri. And Monsanto is actually a company that produces GMO foods, which is processed food. And I know a lot of people are not aware of it, but a lot of people are against Monsanto. And so what they do is get rid of that type of the corn, because if you notice nowadays, the majority of the products has even candies, they have corn syrup. And that's why one of the good examples is that the Coca-Cola from US and Coca-Cola from Mexico totally it tastes different because the type of yes, sugar, the type of sugar they use. So
it's cane sugar, right?
Yeah, it's cane sugar, and the one here is from corn syrup, which is opposite.
And you know what? Sometimes I can taste it. It's like this is way too sweet.
Yes,
and even if you go to like the food chains, like I don't know, like McDonald's, like you go and it's extra sweet. So I'm like, what are they putting in that? So I think they put extra syrup.
Yes, the corn syrup. Yes,
yeah. But sorry, I interrupted you.
Oh yes, so oil, corn, and third one, frozen food. Anything that has to do frozen.
Okay.
Yes, because that food is already prepared. Obvious, it has too much sodium, and besides that, they have chemicals so the food can last longer.
What about alcohol? Even can we drink?
It depends. No, that's another thing too. It depends.
Okay.
It depends. It depends what kind of alcohol, because nowadays, if you compare IPA and you compare all these average alcohol, like they say like Bud Light, now the price is different, which will make you stop and think why it's different, which is both beer. And then second of all, how long does it take Bud Light to create? How long it takes IPA to create? One of the studies I've done when I was at Russia, I went to a congress for medical congress, and I have a few friends from Mexico who they like to party, so they went out, they drink, and the following day, no hangover.
Oh wow!
And I was like, wow, like I mean, you don't have a hangover? It's like no, they even got surprised, because normally people here when they drink beer, the following day they have a hangover. Well, why? Because of the chemicals. Because the chemicals are killing everybody nowadays. When it comes from the meals, when it comes from fluids, and it dehydrates your body. So when it hydrates your body, it dehydrates your brain. Mm-hmm. And that's why when it comes, it's like making the right choice. Okay, I want to drink alcohol. What type of alcohol are you going to drink? And when it
counts as well.
Yes. And the same thing with food. The same thing with food, the same thing with water. You have to know what's the difference between pH. And those are, I mean, it's information that is out there that normally doesn't provide to the people, because we still think that there's few departments on health that's supposed to help us. But like that.
And what foods would you add?
To add, that's a good question. Everything, first of all, when it comes to grass-fed, free cage.
Okay.
There's a difference between grass-fed and there's a difference between grass-fed and free cage. When it comes to the cows, when it comes to chicken.
Chicken.
Yeah, all horrible. And second of all, also anything that has to do, like for example, vegetables. but try to stay away from vegetable who has too much pesticide because that's another problem that we are facing here. And water is very important.
One of the things I've heard, I don't know if it's correct, they were saying that frozen vegetables was best because they cut them right after they're harvested, and so they contain all of the nutrients rather than if you go to the grocery stores, they were already been like from the farm all the way, transportation then to the store.
Correct.
Do you agree with that, or would you?
Well, I disagree with that because, like, I don't know if you ever seen this when you're in Mexico. Is that when you buy food, for example, you buy food in Mexico, you have it there at the kitchen. The following day, you start seeing like small insects.
Yeah.
But why? Because it doesn't have any chemicals.
Yes.
And then I'm pretty sure if you have frozen food, or they say frozen fruit, you put in for the frozen to dry it out, and you will see no insects. And that's a simple test that we did years ago. And why? Because normally the insects can recognize that there's no chemicals, and
they're like, even the insects.
Yes.
Like, I'm not gonna keep that. And
Yes.
here we are eating all.
And we are eating all these products that are harming us.
Yeah. There's a growing research around using stem cells for the liver for regeneration.
Yes.
What's real? What's the hype? And what excites you the most?
Perfect. Now, this is one of my main concentration, stem cells. I've been doing research. Well, let me try. I want to provide a little bit background for my own personal research on stem cells. I was very blessed to meet the proper doctors in Mexico City. I was very blessed to be there when they started doing the stem cells research. And I was still a student. I was not even a doctor. And after a period of time, I started noticing which stem cells are the proper ones for the people's health. Now, unfortunately, there's few doctors offering stem cells, but they are stem cells. They don't come from laboratories. There are people who create supposedly their own stem cells. It's like when you get to hear in the TV, radios, they selling stem cells and capsules. That's a major lie because stem cells, they have to be under temperature. And they say Eskimo stem cells because when we talk about stem cells, we talk about different type of stem cells. We have exosomes, we have placenta, we have Eskimo stem cells, PRP, which is plasma, also considered as stem cells. So adult stem cells from the bone marrow. And stem cells, when you have the proper stem cells, it can actually, with a proper practice, it can regenerate and it can help the liver to recuperate. Why? Because the liver is one of the few organs that if we detoxicate the body, we treat the body properly, it can regenerate by itself. And with stem cells, it will accelerate that generation.
So from like that, so you completely agree with it?
Yes.
It's real, it's not a hype. You know how sometimes there's these things where they just come and they're almost like, well, how could I say it? Like it's just the hype of the moment.
Correct.
And it fades away. Like this is something that works in, but there's a hierarchy of stem cells that everything works for different things.
Yes, correct.
You have to find the proper doctor
with a practice, yes.
Where the right laboratory to get it so that
yes.
you get where you really are asking for.
Yes, correct. Like a good example is that when it comes to stem cells in Mexico, because here in the US, for example, the FDA doesn't approve stem cells. They only approve for research purposes. But in Mexico, there's only a state that approves stem cells banks and stem cells research, which is Jalisco. Now, I had several patients who come and tells me that they found this doctor who has stem cells in Veracruz, which is a major lie because normally Veracruz doesn't approve stem cell banks, only if the doctor bought it from stem cell laboratory from Jalisco. And many laboratories, they actually are very legit. They actually have very professionals. And some laboratories, they don't have the proper stem cells counts because stem cells, they go by counts.
And what do you think it hasn't been improved here in the US?
Going back to the pharmaceuticals. Yeah.
Can the liver really heal itself?
Yes.
What does that process look like, and how fast can someone turn things around?
Well, it's like everything. It's like, for example, they say you have a harm fibrosis. You call it fibrosis when your liver is actually harmed. Let's say we have a young person who drinks a lot and eat bad, and then all of a sudden he created a fatty liver. Now, the fatty liver, just to mention, the biles are damaging the cells, which is the cells turn to scar tissues or fibrosis. And then after that, the same patient decided to make a change. Now, the patient has to detoxicate the body. They say we have 2 months ago, I had this patient who had a bad fatty liver. His cholesterol levels were almost 300. His trigs were they were almost 2,000, which is very bad. He was having the same symptoms that diabetes. Glucose levels were almost 500, which is very bad. A1C was almost 14, which is very bad. So when we provided him to detoxicate his body for 30 days program, first of all, he lost 48 pounds, which is great. That's a great sign. Second of all, after 5 weeks, we did another exam, and guess what happened? Oh, his ranges were normal. So that's how fast, when you detoxicate properly, can heal in less than 2 months.
Less than 2 months.
What months?
And what's one piece of advice, of health advice, you would wish people would stop listening to?
Like, we'll stop, like...
I don't know, like, you know how there's like all this health advice going around. What's one of them you're like, no, that doesn't work. Stop listening to them.
Oh, that anything that has to do with diet, and anything has to do with like products.
With light products?
And diet products.
Like Coke Zero, no.
That's a lie.
That's a lie. Okay.
So make sure, right?
If someone's listening right now, tired, overwhelmed, maybe scared, what would you say to help them take the first step forward towards healing?
Okay, when it comes to fatigue, chronic fatigue, and they're very exhausted. Now, my recommendation, first of all, is to detoxicate the liver and start watching your meal portion. I know a lot of people say breakfast is important, and I would say it's not important because your body can detoxicate by itself, so you have to reduce the consumption of the food. Now, start with breakfast. Now, when it comes to eating, make sure that you eat from 12 to 6. That's all.
Okay.
So you have a range of eating from 12 to 6. Now, stay away from bread, which is very important. And second of all, stay away from oil, from corn, and you will see the results in time.
Okay. Well, thank you so much
for
being with me. That's all the questions I have. I'm so happy that you were able to answer all these questions. I'm pretty sure this is going to help.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Thank you so much. Do you have any socials that you have to want to share, like social media or?
Oh yes, actually, normally our main clinic is in Ciudad Juarez, here at the border, in El Paso, Texas. From the border of El Paso, Texas, and Juarez, we actually we're in the main avenue, which is the 16 de Septiembre, and we're almost in front of the Museum of Juan Gabriel. And second of all, we actually we provide all besides health. We also provide cosmetic products, treatments, which is a lot of people are very excited because once they start losing weight, they want to look better. And you'll be surprised. Actually, it's been a lot of studies that when people look better, they are more motivated to live. Yes, and females, I remember back in the days we did a fast research, studying psychology, took psychology as well. We find out that the first thing females they will look in the morning will be their face.
Yeah.
And they want to look nice. So
yeah. You didn't say the name of your.
Oh, it's called Camelot or Perseus.
Okay. Yes. Well, thank you so much once again. Thank you for listening. Follow us in Beyond the Mic and all social media. Thank you once again for being with us, and hope you have a good day.
Thank you so much.